Okay, so hello again. We left off with basic operations on strings, and I promised you that we will learn how to actually get input from a user when our program is running. Yeah, this is what we will do in this video using input function. So imagine that you are writing a program, you are writing a script. You will later on want to you want to later on send this script to someone. I don't know. Maybe this is a present for someone or some other application. You might want to uh, you might want to create it in such a way that the user who executes this script can specify what text will be repeated. You don't want it fixed on high. So what you can do here is you can use input function. Let's just use it first with in a very basic mode. So I just write input and empty brackets. And what will happen? Python will execute all of the code here just as before. So we will see James Bond here. And then when it reaches this part of the code, it will stop and it will wait until I, as a user, so also in general any user, will input on a keyboard, and it will wait until the user presses enter. And then it will store what the user have pressed on the keyboard as a string and use it later on inside the variable text. Okay, so let's run this script. As you can see, Python has printed James Bond, and now it's waiting here. Waiting, and it will wait here until I input something or until I turn off my computer. So let's say I want to repeat a word good. Okay, so now after I wrote good, I pressed enter, and then Python started executing the rest of the code. So it assigned 10 to the variable number, then computed new variable multiple string. So it was our text inputted by user multiplied by this number, and then this string was printed for the user to see. Now, what else you can do with input function? Well, first of all, it was quite a weird behavior that the execution of a program stopped and there was no way for the user to understand what is going on. So the most basic thing you can do in this scenario, you can ask the user, you can tell the user what is going on. So for instance, here you can say, please provide me with some text. If I run this program right now, everything happens just as before, but Python, when it's before it starts to wait for some input from the user, it prints the string I have used as an argument for my input function. So now everything works the same. I can again write the text good, and Python will execute the rest of the program exactly the same as before. So as you can see, our program got more sophisticated, more pleasant to the eye, thanks to the fact that we can actually use an argument which specifies what is displayed to the user when Python is awaiting the input. You might want to try something else. You might want to also try for the user to provide a number. so please provide an integer. And create a more sophisticated program where the user can determine not only what text is displayed, but also how many times it is repeated. Let's try to run this program now. So let's keep with the text good. Let's repeat it. Let's try to repeat it less times. So for instance 5. And look what happens. Python is telling me there is some type of error, some type error. Can't multiply sequence by non-int of type string. So basically what is happening here is that Python is trying to multiply text, a string here, by another string. How do I know this? Well, if I ask Python to print what is a type of my variable number, maybe let's do comment on these lines so that we don't get an error. Yeah, let's run this code right now. So some text, provide an integer, so 5, and now you can see that type of my variable number is string. So why did that happen? Well, the fact is that Python always interprets input as a string, whatever you input here as a user. So even if you just pressed 5 and this is a number, Python will interpret this as string. So Python interprets this the result of this user action as something like this, okay, not as something like this. If we want Python to to change this thing, this input into an integer, we can do it with type conversion functions, which you have already learned. So I can get the result of my input function, input it as an argument for the int function, and now if I run this script, you will see that my variable has type int. So now if I remove this line of code and uncomment these screens, these lines, everything should work perfectly. So please provide some text, good. Please provide an integer, 5, and you can see that the string is repeated 5 times. If I run the script again, maybe bad, and let's repeat it 4 times, I can see that it's repeated 4 times. Okay, so this is how the function input works. Things you should remember is that you can provide an argument for the input function, and then it is displayed before Python starts to wait for the input, for the user input. Second thing, very important to remember, very often we make mistakes like this, even me after you, even though I'm much more experienced than you, when every time Python gets something from input function, it treats it like a string. So if you want to convert it to something else, like for instance integer or floating point number, you have to convert it first, and then you can start using it as an integer or floating number or something else. By default, Python will treat it as string, and it's your responsibility to convert it to some other type. Okay, so this summarizes the input function. In the next video, we will talk more about how you can format strings and get more advanced options displayed as an output, printed to the user, and stuff like this. So thank you for your attention, and see you in the next video.